Welcome back. A634, and I'm here to talk about what the fuck Trump is doing. What is happening? What's going on? I mean, Jesus. For months, we heard Donald Trump and the Republican Party say, we don't want to give out a bunch of free money. We want the American people to become stronger and independent and not dependent on the government, which happened. That $1,200 checks that they put out really it really made people lay down. It put people at ease, I think, almost. It's like, oh, pandemic, we don't have to leave our houses and we get money. Lots of money. Whatever. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and read something to you. Now, this is from the Business Insider. Some of you may have already read this. Some of you probably didn't, though. Trump's surprise demand for $2,000 stimulus checks blew up Mitch McConnell's master plan and leaves him in a no-win situation. Now, that's the header. Now, I'm kind of wondering, is Mitch McConnell one of those people who is not supporting Trump as far as him fighting the election results? I'm not sure, but it seems that Trump is turning on the Republican Party as they turned on him. Now, he's kind of a child in that way. You know what I mean? Like, he'll just go wherever he's happiest. So if these people make him mad, fuck them. If his people make him mad, fuck them. Yeah, he doesn't seem to be tied down to any type of loyalty, which I guess makes sense. I think that we should be voting properly and not voting based on our side of the fence, you know. Anyway, we'll do some analysis. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is under pressure after President Donald Trump calls for larger checks. McConnell has for months led Republican efforts to limit spending on COVID-19 stimulus package. After lawmakers reached a hard-fought compromise this week, Trump undermined his own party by calling for $2,000 checks instead of $600 ones. Democrats sided with the president. Mitch McConnell now has to cave or stand firm and justify denying larger payments to Americans. Reports have suggested McConnell fears that being too stingy could play badly in the Georgia runoff elections and cost the GOP control of the Senate. Is Trump a bomb? Is Trump a bomb placed inside the Republican Party? We'll see. President Donald Trump on Tuesday night launched a surprise push to hike the stimulus checks in the COVID-19 relief package to $2,000 per person from $600. Democrats cheered his demand, piling pressure on Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and leaving him in a no-win situation. Trump released a video criticizing the $900 billion coronavirus relief package that congressional lawmakers passed on Monday and demanding they increase the checks.
Throughout the summer, Democrats cruelly blocked COVID relief legislation in an effort to advance their extreme left-wing agenda and influence the election. Then, a few months ago, Congress started negotiations on a new package to get urgently needed help to the American people. It's taken forever. However, the bill they are now planning to send back to my desk is much different than anticipated.
My desk.
It really is a disgrace. For example, among the more than 5,000 pages in this bill, which nobody in Congress has read because of its length and complexity, it's called the COVID Relief Bill, but it has almost nothing to do with COVID. This bill contains $85.5 million for assistance to Cambodia, $134 million to Burma, $1.3 billion for Egypt and the Egyptian military, which will go out and buy almost exclusively Russian military equipment, $25 million for democracy and gender programs in Pakistan, $505 million to Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama. $40 million for the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., which is not even open for business. $1 billion for the Smithsonian, and an additional $154 million for the National Gallery of Art. Likewise, these facilities are essentially not open. $7 million for reef fish management, $25 million to combat Asian carp, $2.5 million to count the number of amberjack fish in the Gulf of Mexico, a provision to promote the breeding of fish in federal hatcheries, $3 million in poultry production technology, $2 million to research the impact of down trees, $566 million for construction projects at the FBI. The bill also allows stimulus checks for the family members of illegal aliens, allowing them to get up to $1,800 each. This is far more than the Americans are given. Despite all of this wasteful spending and much more, the $900 billion package provides hardworking taxpayers with only $600 each in relief payments. And not enough money is given to small businesses, and in particular restaurants, whose owners have suffered so grievously. They were only given a deduction for others to use in business their restaurant for 2 years. This 2-year period must be withdrawn, which will allow the owners to obtain financing and get their restaurants back in condition. Congress can terminate it at a much later date, but 2 years is not acceptable. It's not enough. Congress found plenty of money for foreign countries, lobbyists, and special interests, while sending the bare minimum to the American people who need it. It wasn't their fault. It was China's fault, not their fault. I am asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000 or $4,000 for a couple. I am also asking Congress to immediately get rid of the wasteful and unnecessary items from this legislation and to send me a suitable bill, or else the next administration will have to deliver a COVID relief package, and maybe that administration will be me, and we will get it done. Thank you very much.
Oh, goodness gracious. Democratic leaders cheered Trump's announcement, saying they supported $2,000 checks and noting that Republicans had blocked earlier proposals with bigger checks. We spent months trying to secure $2,000 checks, but Republicans blocked it, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer tweeted. Trump needs to sign the bill to help people and keep the government open, and we're glad to pass more aid Americans need. Maybe Trump can finally make himself useful and get Republicans not to block it again. I do believe that is one of the first times that I've heard a Democratic person even hint that Trump could be anything but a destructive force. But that's beyond the point. Nancy Pelosi tweeted, Republicans repeatedly refused to say what amount the president wanted for direct checks. At last, the president has agreed to $2,000. Democrats are ready to bring this to the floor this week by unanimous consent. Let's do it. This leaves the next move to Mitch McConnell, who has for months insisted on a smaller stimulus package and has rejected Democratic proposals for $1,200 checks. So he didn't even want $1,200 checks, let alone $2,000 checks, but he is kind of between a rock and a hard place right now. And he has two undesirable options. He can cave and accept larger stimulus figure after fighting for months to keep it down, or he can block the larger checks and take the political heat for it. Boy, if this doesn't sound like they're trying to mash our brains into a more malleable material. Like, have you ever had cold Play-Doh? I'm sure you guys know what Play-Doh is, right? You ever picked up some Play-Doh that's been sitting there for a while and it's cold, and you have to mush it a lot because it's too strong, because it's been sitting there alone, untouched, you know? And then when you want to play with it, you have to mash it up to make it to where you can form it into what you want, you know? It kind of makes me feel like that's what they're doing to the American people's brains right now. They're trying to mash everybody's brains up until they have no specific form of their own, so they can shape you into whatever they want to shape you into. It is worth noting that even if Trump vetoes the spending bill, which he did not explicitly threaten to do in this video, Congress could force it through by overriding the veto. That could be politically damaging, and there's no guarantee that the congressional math will stay the same in light of Trump's new demand. One reason McConnell may fear blowbacks for keeping the checks at 600 is the runoff elections for Georgia's 2 Senate seats, which the GOP needs to hold to keep control of the chamber. The New York Times reported last week that McConnell backed, that doesn't make any sense. That McConnell backed including stimulus checks in the package after hearing that opposition to them was harming the Senate campaigns in Georgia. You know, it's just so sucky that elections and seats drive what people think they're going to do for us. Like, what about doing what's right, regardless of who gets to sit in the seat? What about that? What about just doing what's right? Now, I'm gonna back off reading the rest of this, because there's not much more. There really isn't much more in here that needs to be said. But I would like to point out, though, that our government spending bill has not been passed yet this year. And, you know, according to the powers that be, this is just a way to simplify things. You know, rather than make the lengthy process of trying to vote on and pass 2 different bills or 100 different bills, they're just cramming them all together into one bill. They're adding them on to the COVID-19 stimulus bill. But that's kind of shady, don't you think? Like, hey, everybody, I need fucking $100, right, for food. And then I spend $20 on food and the rest of it on weed or something. You know what I mean? It's kind of what's happening here. And not to mention the fact that placing the COVID-19 bill in with the other bills means that the COVID-19 bill will have to wait for all the other ones to be understood and approved, right? This is hostage taking. It's saying, look, we're not going to give you the support that you need based for this pandemic unless you approve all of our spending. It's hostage taking. It's just insanity. It's insanity. It's money hungry people. They see money and they just, how can I get myself into that? And all these large corporations, they're contacting their local representatives and trying to buy their way into this bill. And I mean, they did it. They bought their way in. I mean, what company is it that counts how many fish are in the Baltic Ocean? What company is that? Who runs that company? Because they're about to get millions of dollars to go count more fish. Guys, keep your eyes open. Just keep your eyes open. Keep your head, keep your neck on a swivel. Be ready. Something's going down here. Something's going down here, and it's not what we think.